Lord, we thank you for this holy division. We thank you for this place in which to receive and to worship you. I ask, Lord, that you give me the words that you would like to impart to your faithful people of your assembly. That enlightened by them, O Lord, we might live our lives according to your love and your grace. All of the Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. If you'd like to have one of the Bibles, open to page 835. In the Gospel of all that was proclaimed by the holy evangelist St. Matthew, the 4th chapter, 19th verse reads, "And he said unto them, Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. وقال لهما هلما وراءي فأجعلكما سيدي الناس." May the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Fishers of people. Fishers of people. I don't know about you, but I wish I didn't, but I wind up waking up eating 2 times a day and really have to sleep up. I get some of my best thoughts when I wake up at night and I can't go back to sleep. And my mind is just occupied and I start thinking. And this came together tonight. Now, some of you, or hopefully most of you, know that this church is very evangelical. It wants to bring the gospel of Christ, but the real gospel of Christ. Because what I find in America, I often is anything but the gospel of Christ. And I've used the example before, but I always like to let you know in case somebody ever heard it or forgot about it. To show you how perverted the understanding of Jesus Christ can be. Yes, God, I may have told this. If I told it to let him know. Yes. If I told you this, don't answer. I mean, I told you. You know what the Ku Klux Klan is? You know they burned the cross on people's lawn where they did somebody? Can I tell you what that represents? Any idea? No. Any idea? You know because I was told you. The light of Christ. Yeah. They're going to hang somebody because of his color. And they burn a cross. And before they kill murder this person, that to them represents the light of Christ. That's crazy. What kind of Christ do you believe in that you're pouring upon his light before you murder somebody? And the only reason you murder him is because the color of sin. He doesn't accused of a crime. Most times that people accused of crimes was just kind of not really real. They just wanted to kill the guy. So the other night I woke up, and as I said before, this church is very evangelical, tries to bring people to know Jesus Christ. And one of our aims, one of our things that we're trying to do with this church is to go up to Orange Avenue on Friday and Saturday night and bring the knowledge of Jesus to all the young people. There are very few old people I would think up on Orange Avenue. Have any of you kids ever been up on Orange Avenue on Friday or Saturday? Thank God. Why is it not shaking your head? Have you been up on Orange Avenue? Well, I know you, Jacob, thank God. Have you been up there? Woo! Packed. It's packed. You say, Father, how do you know it's packed? Because when I go home for Vespers, it's always snowing. And when we've had like Holy Week services, we're here late at night, 9, 10 o'clock, it's full of young people. So the other night I woke up, I said, I really would like to and there's so many good young people that don't know anything about God, that don't believe in God, that don't know that much about anything about Jesus Christ. So I'm laying there in bed, and all of a sudden, an acronym came to me. You know, of all religions, the Orthodox love acronyms the most. We use acronyms for everything. Let me see, Gabrielle, if you know. Do you know what they call the Ladies' Society in the Archdiocese?
Dancing.
No, that's the Archdiocese, the diocese, the ladies.
Oh.
Aona?
Oh, yes, I mean that's.
Aona? A-O-W-A-A, they got Aona. The W got dark circles, Aona. Antioch Orthodox Women of North America. So this little acronym came to me, and I was laying in bed and went, woo! Woo! And cut my woo! He's laughing. That's why I didn't go back to sleep right there. Woo! W-O-O. Witnessing on Orange. on Orange. I want to remember this word. It was recognized downstairs later on, and at our Bible study with you, we're going to talk about training people to do witnessing on Orange. 6 months ago, somebody came to church, and there were some homeless people sleeping on Wall Street. They said, you should call the police and get rid of them. I said, what? They said, what do we have to do with that? I said, we have everything to do with that. We have everything to do with the young people that are up on Orange Avenue drinking, smoking, and you know what else. But they're not looking for Jesus Christ. And the only thing that, what they're really looking for, let me ask you. Okay, I'm going to come over to, no, I'm not going to old. This is the children. I'm older than everybody. What are you talking about? More than younger than me. Okay? Dennis, you may not know this. What would you think all those young people packed on Orange Avenue on Friday night? What would you think that they're looking for?
Drugs.
Could you drugs, alcohol, whatever? Can you get into one word maybe? David?
Hi.
What?
Hi.
They're looking to get high. They're looking for a thrill. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with looking for a thrill. What's wrong is where they're looking for it. So woo is intended to be up there on Orange Avenue witnessing about Jesus Christ. So you say, well, what does that mean to today's gospel? It says very simply here, I will make you fishers of men. Now what's the bait? Anybody here a fisherman? Anybody here go fishing? I don't care what you're talking about. Mine here a fisherman is going to love this line of grace of Sabbath. Okay. Anybody else here fishing? No fisherman? What is it? You know this idea is fishing. Okay. You go fishing, right? Use a hook and a line. You just throw the hook and the line in the water and hope the fish will decide if they want to come home with you, or do you do something else?
Bait.
What?
Bait.
Bait. Bait, right? So if you want to be a fisher of people, you have to do something as bait. Because they're not there. I mean, when you stand, imagine me just standing up there on Orange, and standing up there with my robe on and roll, and I don't think of that. But if you want to attract somebody, you have to use bait. If you want to go fishing, you have to use bait. What is the bait? Oh, we can walk up there with a portable neon sign saying, Jesus saved, Jesus saved, Jesus saved. That's not the bait. The bait is listening and feeling compassion by learning of that person's past. Before you pass judgment on people or think this or that, you should learn about their past. For example, I don't even realize an example here. When you sit up here, you're really looking for it. Suzanne, you can hear me, am I right?
Right.
You don't. I say that. But if I don't know she's using a hearing aid, and I'm speaking with a normal tone, and she does not respond, I think she's facing me. Or she's not paying attention. But once I know she's got a hearing aid, then I think there must be something wrong with the hearing aid. So if you meet someone that has a problem or an anger or a disposition or whatever it might be, and you don't know why, you come to the conclusion that quite often it's wrong. When we've had people for 11.5 years from this church, a lot of people tell me, some of them are sitting here, but I hope they've learned differently, that the homeless just were too lazy to work. Yeah, some work, but there's a lot of people that have homeless that are lazy to work. I explained to them, homeless people do not get a job quite often because they don't have an address. Homeless people have problems. Some of them are addicted to drugs. Some of them have psychological problems. If you keep emptying all of the insane asylums in America, where are you going to put these people? They're going to go out on the street. So they're going to be there. So when you understand why, I was in Pennsylvania last week, and I just felt like having some Arabic food, so I Googled Middle Eastern restaurants in the area of Williamsburg, Pennsylvania. And it was a place called Sifty. Now, if you don't know about the Middle East, okay, why don't they call their grandmother Sifty? Which Sifty really means lady, comes from the word sit. Now, in parts of Lebanon and most of Syria, they don't call their grandmother Sifty, they call her Teta. And my family, who grew up in Lebanon, what they came and said, Teta, I never heard of it. So when I saw this restaurant called Sifty, Sitty, I said, oh, this is not going to be good. How do you like the food? Went to the restaurant, ordered an appetizer plate, and I said to the waitress, I said, is the owner here? She said yes, and she came out and started talking everything, and she's from a part of Syria called Wadi Masada, which is the valley of the Christians in just north of Lebanon. And she was so taken with the way we were going back and forth, I had ordered this appetizer. She kept bringing me stuff that she personally makes, which was great. But she said to me, I said, are you married? She said, no, I'm remarried. I said, well, I said, story. I said, what happened? She said, well, my husband and I got a divorce. And you ready for this? I'm the black sheep of the family. I said, you're the what? She said, I'm the black sheep of the family. I said, because you got a divorce. Tell me what happened. He was abusive. Over and over and over and over and over again. And she said, I can't put up with this anymore to survive, so they got a divorce. So if I didn't know that, and people who didn't know that, they go, oh, why did they get a divorce? You would pass judgment, or you would come to some conclusion about that person. So when we are talking to people and witnessing our honors, we need to find out what's their story. We need to learn to listen. Put your hand up if you have a hard time listening and you have constantly interrupt people when they're talking to you. Come on, put it up. Dennis, if your parents are upset with you, they maybe did something you shouldn't have done, whatever, right? And you're trying to explain it to them why. Did they ever interrupt you while you
Yeah.
I hate them. I want to tell you something right now. There's no problem. I'm telling a story, and somebody interrupts me, I stop talking. I don't say the word. And why do I say, go ahead, Father? You know what I heard when I get to? I heard another story. Talk what you want to talk about. I'm not going to make people listen. I heard another story. Why should I continue? My point is that it's very difficult when you think you know the answer not to interrupt people. We're in such a hurry in America. We are putting 99,000 miles an hour. But if you listen to people, you quite often will find out what their story is, and then you can maybe help them. And then you can witness on ours. But that was one of the first things that we would use as being willing to listen. Goes on and says in verse 22, and they immediately left the ship and their father and followed him. But the Lord taraka as-safinata abahuma wa tabi'ahu. What are, and I ask you this question, what are you willing to leave behind? If you're going to follow the question, what are you willing to leave behind? Your pain, your anger, your remorse, your guilt, prejudicial assessments of people. What my daughter Anastasia, of course I know this happened to you. Do you remember years ago when you got your first car, that Geo, that Chevy Geo? Yeah. And you got a job, right? Okay. Why did you get the job? Did you hear that? Did you all over here hear that? Did you hear what she just said? I got the job to pay for the car. Now, if I said, why did you get the car? I guarantee you would say, to get to the job. If this makes sense to you, we had this happen to a person. He and his wife were starting to have problems. She wasn't, she just had changed. I said, what's going on with her? He said, I don't know. So I said, what's going on? She says, well, I'm tired. I got a job, and I'm tired. I can't do all those things. I said, to get a job. Just because I bought a car. I said, why do you need a car? Exactly. To get to the job. So I have to ask people, what are you willing to leave behind? We have in the Orthodox Church, we have unmarried priests. They can become monks, they can become bishops, but they can't have a wife. So if you want to be a bishop or a monk, you have to leave behind the idea of having a wife, of having children. You leave that behind. So are you willing to leave? So I ask people, what are you willing to leave behind to follow Jesus? Now you might think, well, do I have to follow everything? No. I mean, do I have to give up everything? No, you don't have to. What you have to give up, is a desire for all these things. They come. Got a car, got a house, got a job, got clothing, got food. But it's a desire that goes on for more. This is what you need to understand this. Maybe that's why there are more and more people coming to the Orthodox Church in America. Because the Orthodox Church is telling people, you are being fed, you are being conditioned, you are being trained, you are even being brainwashed to get more stuff. More, and more. Why do we need more stuff? Now, you know this. You know that when you make the altar breaks, those little babies, you think I throw them out? No. Why should I throw them out? To go buy more babies? So we are a consumer. We talk about consumer. We're consuming. Where season comes from Brazil. They have probably the largest rainforest in the world in Brazil. It's being cut down. So why? So they can have more land to grow more food for more Americans to stuff in their mouths. They're killing the rainforest, which we need for the ecosystem, to feed people more junk food than this country. And my point is, what are you going to do? You want to go on a diet? Because I want to go on a diet. Okay. I have sitting in my refrigerator, which I brought back from Pennsylvania, a beautiful. I mean, you can paint that picture. It is so pretty. It's a chocolate chip muffin. And those chips are shiny. I opened that door and they're looking at me. Well, I got on a scared this morning when I was thinking about that chocolate chip muffin. And I said, and go eat that chocolate. I was willing to leave behind. You might say, well, what does that have to do with what you're saying? Because we need to put things on a practical level. What are we willing to leave behind? Jesus is not asking you to give up everything. He's not. He doesn't expect you to give up everything. But he does expect you to put a priority of him. That's the priority. Without Jesus, it doesn't mean anything. And finally it says, verse 23, and Jesus went about all Galilee, teaching in their synagogues and preaching the gospel of the kingdom, and healing all manner of sickness and all manner of disease among the people. وكان يسوع يقف كل الجليل يعلم في مجمعهم ويكرز ببشارة الملكوت ويشفي كل مرض وكل ضعف في الشعب. The gospel of the kingdom, of the true beliefs of the Orthodox Church. I was talking to somebody on the plane coming down, actually older than me, and he reminded me of the time when I was talking to someone, they asked me about the Orthodox Church. I said, and I want you to hear this, and I will stand on this, God willing, to the day I die and beyond. The Orthodox Church, in her teachings, is perfect. The teachings are 100% right on. Not the administration. Start with me, we all make mistakes, but its teachings are perfect. So the gospel of the kingdom is found in the teachings of the church. When we talk about healing, most sicknesses and diseases have been accomplished by mankind. Most of them have been accomplished, even the pandemic, whether you're pro or against the vaccine, that's what I'm getting into. But realize for a moment that there had to be something special, because it's my knowledge of this, it's really limited. To develop a vaccine takes maybe 5 or 10 years. Now, whether, I'm not going to get into the efficacy of this vaccine, but they did it very quickly. But the point is that people that invent things will tell you, if they're honest, that something came to them. So every disease that mankind has accomplished in getting rid of has been through a revelation of God and His motivation. But there's one thing that our society has not been able to do. And it's something that they're not even trying to heal, because they don't even realize how difficult and how disturbing it is to our society. It is the healing of the soul, which is accomplished by God, for whom is us. You know why most people don't come to church? Oh, some it's too far, it's too long, this one is too long. Most people don't come to church who have already came to church or went to church because they didn't get anything out of it. They didn't get anything out of it. So why should they come? People's time is valuable to them. So how do we accomplish what Christ told us to do? Woo! That's it. I want you to remember, woo! It'll never become as well known as soy or the others. But I'm going to ask you to think about between now, we finish the divine liturgy and get downstairs. I'm going to ask you to think about learning how to be involved in the movement. It isn't going to be my magic that a lot of young people up on our table are going to come here. And it's not just to fill the church. I like to fill the church. But they are looking. It is so sad. It is so sad that what they're looking for is right here. They don't know. And they take false highs. But it doesn't last. It's not what we're looking for. I know you may not think of it so, but I'm telling you, what you want to believe or not, you deeply in your soul. This is really what you're looking for. This is the joy of salvation. This is the fulfillment of the life that Christ came to us. And without it, you're not really living. You're just existing. And Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Let us pray to the Lord.